It's the first week in March, and typically that means it's time for the Geneva Motor Show. It's one of the most important shows for European manufacturers during a given calendar year, and frankly, one of the most important auto shows of the year, period. And yet, this year it was canceled at essentially the last minute due to concerns over the spread of COVID-19, better known as coronavirus. What were we supposed to see in Geneva, and what got shifted to other outside events? What knock-on effects could Geneva's cancellation have on other auto shows? And most importantly, how is the coronavirus outbreak affecting automotive manufacturers and suppliers from around the globe? That's the topic of this week's episode of Roadshow's AutoComplete. The lead-up to the Geneva show was strange this year, notably because of the show's organizers' reticence over canceling the show, even as COVID-19 began to creep its way across Europe. The organizers went from a stance where they claimed that there was no real concern of it having an effect on the show whatsoever, to one where they admitted that there was a small possibility that something could go wrong, and then all of a sudden they threw in the towel entirely as the Swiss government banned large gatherings of people on February 28th. That announcement left auto manufacturers in an awkward position, having already committed the large amounts of money and other resources necessary in order to have a presence at the show. With many debuts scheduled, information sent out to members of the press, under embargo of course, media brought in for said debuts, plus the cost of stand construction, staff, etc. Situation looked pretty grim. Now, automakers are generally a pretty clever lot, so many of them decided to quickly pivot their planned debuts to online events that would be streamed from their own headquarters in many cases, or in sites other than the Geneva Convention Center. So now that all the shuffling is done, what have we seen and what are we expecting to see this week? Well, Geneva is always a big show for supercars and concepts, so we'll see plenty of both of those. Specifically, we're looking forward to concepts from Polestar, aka the Precept, and Hyundai, aka the Prophecy, as well as BMW's new i4 concept. We're also pretty hyped over the planned debut of the latest McLaren Longtail model, the 765 LT, and the newest and wildest Bentley to debut in recent memory, the Bacalar. For the rest of us that maybe don't own a private island, there are plenty of other seriously big debuts too. The biggest is arguably Volkswagen's 8th generation GTI, which comes with a new face, better in-car tech, and a modest increase in performance over the already excellent 7th generation. We're also excited about the latest and greatest Mercedes-Benz E-Class, because it typically presages the kind of technology we can expect to see shortly on other Benz products like the C-Class and A-Class. Then, somewhere in the middle of that continuum, from pedestrian to plutocrat, lies the new Porsche 911 Turbo, which as usual promises to deliver the kind of performance that makes other car companies weep while offering enough comfort to crush entire continents at a blow. We've got individual coverage on all of these models and the whole heap of others set to debut over on Roadshow, so if you need more details, and I suspect you do, go check them out there. Now, what does the cancellation of Geneva mean for the auto show model in general? It's tough to say, but if you've been covering the news from the industry over the past few years, there are plenty of examples of manufacturers pulling out of auto shows that they've taken part in for years or even decades. The reasoning behind this is that A, auto shows are extremely expensive for reasons that we've mentioned earlier, and B, manufacturers are beginning to see the value in hosting off-site events during the time that the auto show is going on, because not only is it cheaper, but you've essentially got a captive audience. If they have the event before the actual show starts, say on a Sunday if the show starts on a Tuesday, they also have a better chance of breaking through the large amount of static that all the other car releases generate and getting more coverage. Geneva's cancellation will prove, provided the internet launches are successful of course, that not only can automakers have the benefits of an off-site event, but they can open it up directly to consumers online, getting eyes and ears without the filter of automotive journalists. It's likely that New York and the newly moved Detroit auto shows will serve as litmus tests for the future of the auto show as a whole, and we hope they go well. Finally, if COVID-19 is big enough to disrupt the Geneva Motor Show, something that's been going on for 90 years, what other havoc is it wreaking throughout the automotive industry? Well, to start, the virus's effect in China specifically has caused huge woes for companies like Tesla, which has recently invested heavily in its Shanghai Gigafactory 3. Supplier problems and mandatory factory shutdowns by the government have caused Chinese domestic market Model 3 production to stall entirely. But it's not just companies in China that are struggling. BMW recently announced that it was quarantining 150 of its employees in their homes in Germany after one employee at the factory tested positive for the virus. Nissan was the first Japanese firm to shut down factories over coronavirus concerns, and in South Korea, an especially hard-hit area, both Hyundai and its sister company Kia are closing factories as well. With a recent statement by Harvard epidemiologist Mark Lipstitch claiming that between 40 and 70% of the world's population can expect to contract coronavirus in the next year, it's likely that we've only begun to see the effects on the wildly complicated and interdependent relationships between customers, manufacturers, and their suppliers in the automotive industry. So, this has been our look not only at the Geneva Motor Show that should have been, but at its reasons for being canceled, its effect on other auto shows, as well as the coronavirus's likely effect on the industry going forward. We hope you found it interesting and informative, and if you like what we're doing here, throw us a like or hit the subscribe button. I've been Kyle Hyatt, and until next time, be good to one another, and please remember to wash your damn hands.